Greetings from the Black Panther. I am King T'Challa of Wakanda. In these times of quarantine and social distancing, you may wish to greet each other as we do in Wakanda by crossing your arms like this and saying, Wakanda forever. Today, I would like to read to you a story. The Marvelous Mud House by April Graney. The Marvelous Mud House. On the edge of a lush mountain in Kenya sat a marvelous mud house where George and his mother lived. What made this mud house marvelous was the marvelous thing that happened there. Each morning, as the sun flooded the great rift valley below, George searched the terraced garden for corn, mangoes, and potatoes, while Mama George milked the goat. Then they loaded their baskets on their backs and began their long walk to the village. Down, down, down one side of the mountain and up, up, up the side of the next mountain they walked. And every day, Mama George sang, "We're rich, my son, rich in love, strength, and life. The giver of these hears every cry. Let's lift up our hands to the God who provides." One morning, George could hear the children singing from the schoolhouse. "Mama," he said with a sigh, "all my friends are in school. I want to go too, but how will we pay the fees?" Mama George raised her eyes and replied, "Let's keep working, George. God will provide." Far away, on the edge of the Oklahoma woods, sat a hungry ranch house where the Smith family lived. What made this house hungry was the feeling of always wanting more. The 5 Smith children, Olivia, Ruth, Thomas, Tucker, and Ben, had toy trucks and trains and footballs and board games, pretty dolls and stuffed bears, 1 brown and white beagle, and 1 whopping big car. But cleanup time brought weeping and whines, and with closets overflowing with toys, they still begged their parents, "Oh, please, buy us a little bit more." Then one day, an adventure began. The Smith family hopped on a plane and flew up in the sky, over the land and across the ocean, to Kenya. There, they saw a new world full of yawning rhinos, graceful giraffes, playful monkeys, and mischievous baboons. They saw boys selling bananas and girls carrying water on their heads. And there, in a village market, the Smith family met George and his mother. Every day, the Smiths stopped by to buy corn and to chat with George and Mama George. The youngest Smith, Ben, gathered the courage to ask, "Where do you live? Is it very far?" Mama George leaned over with a smile. "We can show you. Please come to our house for dinner." So down, down, down one side of the mountain and up, up, up the side of the next mountain went the 2 families. As they passed the schoolhouse, Ben asked, "Is that your school, George?" His new friend shrugged. "I hope to go there someday, but if we get the school fees." "God will provide," Mama George reminded. As they walked, she taught the Smith family her song. "We're rich, my friends, rich in love, strength, and life. The giver of all these hears every cry. Let's lift up our hands to the God who provides." Soon they reached the marvelous mud house. Ben was surprised. "But George, where's your house?" he asked. "Right here," George replied. Mama George and I built it ourselves. But George, where's your car? We use our feet, said George. But George, where are your games? George said, I'll show you. He quickly began showing how much fun it was to play hide and seek among the corn and mango trees, and to make up games with pebbles and banana leaves. When it was time for dinner, both families gathered inside the marvelous mud house. There they sat, knees touching as they savored plantain stew, ugali, and chapatis. George passed around sweet fried mandazis. A lantern flickered on 9 smiling faces, and the walls rang with laughter. With full bellies, the Smith children looked round in wonder. In the mud house, to be surrounded by joy and love was enough, much more than the accumulation of stuff. That night, Ben's eyes watered as he hugged Mama George goodbye. Asante, he said in his best Swahili accent. Thank you. The next day, as the Smiths flew back across the ocean, Ben thought about the marvelous mud house and how full it seemed, full of fun and laughter and friendship, full of Mama George's faith and her joyful songs. And suddenly he remembered what it felt like to be full too. Back at home, something seemed different at the Hungry Ranch house. The children rarely asked for more things at the store, and they all hugged each other a little bit more. We don't need so much stuff, they said. A little is enough. Let's go help George go to school instead. Olivia said, I can babysit. Ruth said, I can have a bake sale. Thomas said, I can rake leaves. Mom and Dad said, we can get a smaller car. Ben said, I can sell some of my toys. Tucker said, I can stand on my head, which he promptly demonstrated, of course. Then he giggled, or I can feed people's pets. And they all sang, we're rich in Christ, rich in love, strength, and life. The giver of all these hears every cry. Let's lift up our hands to the God who provides. Back in Kenya, George still thought about going to school. He planted more and more corn, but he said Mama George still did not have the money to pay school fees. He wondered if Mama was right to trust in God to help. But Mama George continued to pray, Lord, will you help us? Then one day, Mama George received a letter from far away. She carefully opened it and read, You taught us so much that we want to bless you. Please use this money to send George to school. Your friends, the Smiths. Mama George began to cry, not tears of sadness, but of joy. She skipped down the side of the mountain and leapt up to the side of the next mountain, hurrying to find George. Mama, what's wrong? Why do you run so fast? George asked. Mama George read the letter aloud. George, God has provided for us, she cried. I am going to school, George squealed. He wrapped his arms tight round his mother and let out a great big whoop and holler. 2 houses that night rang with laughter and dance. One marvelous mud house on a mountain and the other happy house on a ranch. The end. This story contains many Swahili words from Kenya. These words include asante, which means thank you, habari, which means how are you, jambo, which means hello, karibu, which means welcome, kwaheri, which means goodbye, a chapati, is a flat, round bread similar to a tortilla. A mandazi is a Kenyan donut. Ugali is a dough-like porridge made with maize flour. And there you have the marvelous mud house. I hope you enjoyed the story. Wakanda and Kenya forever.